Hello, friends. Today's topic is about running from our feelings. And I don't know if that's something that stirs up anything for you. Sometimes we do this and we don't even realize that that's exactly what we're doing. So let's say, like in our world today, with the abundance of being busy, with all of the things on our list and on our schedules, that can be a way or a sign that we might be running from our feelings. If we tend to say yes when we want to say no, that can be a sign that we're running away from our feelings. If we do things to help us feel better, such as like emotional eating, getting online shopping, that sort of thing can be something where we're running from our feelings. We're distracting ourselves from feeling. And when we think about like the addiction to being busy, and when we focus on that, what we see is sometimes we feel like we must be busy, that gives us this purpose. And if we're not busy, then we might feel insignificant. So it's almost like this badge of honor that we feel like we must do that. That shows that I'm hardworking. It shows my value in this world. And we live in a very, like in yoga or in that kind of mindset, we would call it masculine energy of like going out and conquering, and not, we don't as much honor the feminine energy of just like relaxation and taking care of ourselves, nurturing, rest. And we need both. And so when we are in this busy, constantly going, that's not healthy for us. Yet that seems to be what society honors. That's something that makes us feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's the message that we get sent. And so then it becomes like this. Our nervous system almost gets used to it. So then when we're in the state of solitude or quiet, we don't feel comfortable with it. And I don't know if any of you are even noticing this, as things have slowed down, kids' activities, you're not running to those things. You're not feeling like the pressure to go entertain your kids in certain ways. You're at home more. And so you're not able to run and to be as distracted. And we have the internet in the palm of the hands most of the time. So sometimes we go to that instead. But if you're finding yourself uncomfortable with the fact that you're not as busy, exploring what that means, because sometimes we need to be busy so that we can distract ourselves from our true feelings, from how we're feeling. And that's a lot of times, if you're engaging in a behavior that isn't aligned with your arrow pointing up with your goals, then asking yourself what's that about, because often it's because we're running away from our true feelings. And there's just these certain aspects that we need to reconnect with in order to really get back into alignment. So there's different words that we can use for this. So sometimes people would use intuition. Some people would call it like a sixth sense. Your heart, some people might say your spirit or your soul. But there's this different energy or different element to us that's not just our monkey mind overthinking and overanalyzing. There's this deeper part of us, and you can use the term that most resonates with you, but it's there. And it's like, that's where this truth of what we want to do and what's right for us resides. When we're pulled in a million different directions, then we don't really tap into that. We don't really connect with it. And so we distract ourselves from that. Sometimes we do that on purpose, because in the quiet times, when we are quiet, we might recognize that voice telling us that we're not in alignment, that there's something that we need to change, that we need to shift something. And sometimes we don't want to do that work. We don't want to do the shifting. And so then it's easier to distract ourselves so we don't have to do that personal development, that deep, hard work. Instead, we would rather just keep going through the motions. And we need to recognize the importance of that. Because if we continue throughout our life from running from our feelings, then we're running from a part of ourselves. I've come to believe that emotions it's like energy and motion. They're just it's a gauge, it's a guiding point to see like where are we in alignment and where are we not, when are we in alignment and when are we not. So if we're feeling a negative emotion, if we're feeling anxiety, that can be an indication that we're not in alignment, that there's a thought going on that's not true, not connecting with our truth of what we know. Like if it's, I'm going to fail this test, or I'm never going to be able to pay this bill. The true self, that sixth sense, your intuition knows that yes, that might be a real concern, but it's you're going to be okay. Like the real you is okay. So that there's a disconnect between the truth and like this thought of catastrophizing in an event. So it's a gauge. And if we're running from those gauges and we're not looking at them, then it's almost like we're missing opportunities to overcome them, to do different practices to help move through them. And instead we distract ourselves and run away further from that truth. And this is very deep and it's very layered. So it can be simply like you're running away from your goals because you're engaging in, if you're running away from your feeling by laying on the couch when you know that you wanted to go for a walk, but you don't want to feel the sensation of the work from working out, then you escape by watching TV instead. And so you kind of sabotage yourself. So there's other things, like if you're feeling anxious and you turn towards social media to distract yourself, then you're running away from your feeling and replacing it, making yourself feel better by that distraction. Whereas if we could lean in and move towards the feeling and understand what it's about, then we might peel away the layers too of seeing, well, I'm actually feeling anxious because I am doing something that isn't in my best interest. And it could be all sorts of things, or sometimes what's scary though for people, and not everybody's ready for this, to have this deep dive into ourselves, but it can be a big thing. Like, this relationship isn't right for me, and I know that. So I'm distracting myself by watching TV and doing all these other things and running away from that truth. It could be this job is not right for me. It could be the way I'm engaging in this relationship or engaging in this job is not in alignment. It could be my thoughts, because it doesn't always mean that if or feeling like a relationship is off, that we have to leave the relationship. It could be our mindset towards a relationship, that we're bringing in almost like a conditioned response into the relationship that we need to work on and work through. And we just blame the other person, or we blame the relationship, and then we think that we have to run. So there's so many different opportunities for growth. So those challenges can be an opportunity, but when we're constantly running from them, then we lose that gift of understanding ourselves deeper, exploring what it is about that, and moving through and growing. And so that's really an important thing for us to learn in our life, is where when we feel boredom or we feel something, and our first instinct is to distract ourselves, and knowing that that's usually going on without our conscious awareness. When you try to bring more intention into your life, when you find yourself distracting yourself, and in what other way, being a procrastinator, what are you really running from? What feelings are you really running from? Journaling is a great way to do this, but just sitting in silence and figuring out like what it is, because when you can feel it and you can see it, then you become more powerful than it. You understand that it is not you, that you're the observer of it, and that you are almost you get to drive your life instead of letting those feelings unconsciously dictate what happens through your day. So that's all I have for today. Let me know if that makes sense to you, or if you want more information, but that's a big one that we all deal with.